Yes. Luckily, I remembered that. Again, to mention to you that whenever I conduct this session for discussion, it is a discussion. I like to have these discussion points because unlike in-person presentation, I can just let you ask questions during my presentation. However, when it comes to Zoom, you may find it difficult to ask questions when I'm speaking because of the one-way nature of the audio. So that's why I like to have the discussion after each main point so that you have an opportunity to come in. Again, my style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, reduce being serious, and be more real. So before I continue on, just to again to acknowledge those of you who are here, Danielle. So we have Yok Teng joining us. Welcome, Yok Teng. And we have Rina, and who else are here? Nur Zarina, Cik Sakina, and Louise Lau, and also Guat Cheng. So again, I bid you welcome. And that welcome also is an invitation to you to share whenever that we have our discussions afterwards. Okay, a little bit of introduction about this topic that we are going to be discussing this evening. That this topic is about life, and life is all about relationships. Human beings crave for and certainly need social context. Relationships are very important to all humans, no matter the age, nationality, or gender. Without relationships, life is useless, empty, boring, and lonely. With good relationships, lives are more fun and fulfilling. In the current context of the COVID-19, we are experiencing lockdown. And that lockdown, because there is that, it prevents us from pursuing the relationships in our lives. It creates stress. Now, it creates not just the social stress or relation stress, it's creating financial stress, mental stress, emotional stress, and in our context for this evening, the stresses that is being put on relationships. So that's why we are discussing on the 3 factors that go into a good relationship or into a successful relationship. Now, before I go in further, just to share with you this slide, that communication is relationship and relationship is communication. So what we'll not be discussing this evening is the impact of communicating in relationship, because that is a given there. So what we'll be looking into are the factors that contribute to relationship except for communication. That is a big topic in itself, so that we'll not be touching that area for this evening. So let's take the first point that we'll be discussing. That the first point is regarding the 3 factors that go into a successful relationship. And as I mentioned to you, it is not something that I suspect, it is not something that are new to you. It is something that you may have come across before. So that's why I'll be going through these 3 factors quickly for this evening. So what's the first factor? Yeah, and no prizes for guessing that. The first factor is love. Relationship requires love. So that's the first factor that is required in a successful relationship. The second factor is commitment. And the third factor is trust. So these are the 3 I consider these are the three foundational factors for relationship. Foundational, when I say foundational, it reminds me of my background in engineering. I specialize in soil improvement in foundation engineering. And in my 12 years in the construction industry, I see many situations whereby when the foundation is strong, the building stands strong. A good example is the KLCC Twin Tower. You have a strong foundation, you can have a very high building. Now, when the foundation is weak, then the building cannot stand on it. So one of the projects that I was involved in, there was a polytechnic in the south of Malaysia. Because the foundation was not strong, after 1 year of being commissioned, they had to abandon the building because the whole building sank. So I like to use the analogy when you talk about the foundation to successful relationship. So these are the three factors that we need to look into. So let's take the first factor, that is love. Now, when we talk about love, we need to realize that why love is a foundational factor for a relationship is that a relationship is an orbit between two individuals or more individuals. So the individuals in the relationship, they are orbiting around one another. I'm using the terminology orbit, just like we have the orbit of the Earth around the sun. So it is an orbit. It is orbiting around that, just spinning and spinning and spinning around it. So when it comes to the mechanics of relationship, it is like an orbit. It is going around in its path. Now, an orbit requires an attractive force. In the universe, the attractive force is gravity. Now, in human relationship, Dr. Richard Buckminster Fuller calls that attractive force, it's called love. So love is metaphysical gravity. Love is required to pull the participants together, the partners together. Otherwise, they will just go off in a tangent. So love is a prerequisite to relationship. And as I say that, I think that you may not be so surprised about it, because when we talk about relationships, people talk about loving relationships, the love in that relationship. So what I just want to highlight over here is that love is a prerequisite to a relationship. It is a prerequisite. Without love, there will not be a relationship. Just like without gravity, there will not be an orbit. And since relationship is an orbit, without love, there will not be a relationship in place. Now, the next thing about love is that there are many different forms of love, because there are many different forms of relationships. And for those of you who may be familiar about it, I'm just going to go through very quickly on the different forms of love. We have agape, which is unconditional love. There is also eros, that is romantic love. There is philia, affectionate love. Then we have philosia, self-love. And we have storge, there is familiar love. There is also pragma, enduring love. There is ludus, playful love. And we also have mania, obsessive love. So those are the many different forms of love. because there are many different forms of relationships. So I hope that you hold this in mind. Yeah? So first, love is a prerequisite to relationship. Now we are talking about the many different forms of love for the many forms of relationships. So whenever I think about the many different forms of love, I remember that when my eldest granddaughter, and maybe some of you are smiling already when I mentioned about this, it's just that I have been learning from this child for so long that it comes out very naturally for me now. My eldest granddaughter, she's already 13 now. Her name's Azara. However, I call her Grasshopper. When she was about 3 years old, so this was when I learned from her regarding this. When she was about 3 years old, she loved to play quizzes with her mama, and she still loves to play quizzes until today, to the extent that even though we are living in different homes, she will play quiz with grandfather through Telegram. So she's still there with the quizzes. So when she was about 3 years old, she was playing with the things around the house, and suddenly she had this spark of idea and ran up to her mama to play a quiz game with mama. And she asked mama, "Mama, who do you think I love most?" Oh, so that's an interesting question that she asked mama. And mama so proudly guessed, "Is it me?" "No," she answered. Now, those of you mothers in this room today, how would you feel if your child said that to you? So my daughter Shaima was shocked for a moment, and then she regained her composure, and then she guessed, "Is it Papi?" "No," she said. And then she make another guess. "Is it grandfather?" "Yes," Grasshopper answered. "How do you know?" she asked her mama. And when my daughter related that incident to me, I thought about it. And then I realized this. I thought about what she was doing before she went into that quiz. She was playing. So whenever that she played, probably she thought of grandfather, because there was that time she came up to me and said very proudly, and I felt proud that she said that to me. She came up to me and said, "Grandfather, you are my best playmate." So then I begin to understand why she answered that grandfather is the one that she loved most. Because in the context of play, grandfather is the best playmate. Therefore, grandfather is the one she loved most. And she loved her mama the most in the context of caring, taking care. That's that context of loving mama. Papi will probably in the context of safety and security. That's that context. Then what I learned from there is that, wow, love comes in many forms and many different contexts. So that's love for you. So that's the first factor that go into successful relationship. Now, moving on to the second factor. The second factor is commitment. Commitment is about longevity, durability, endurance of the relationship. So if you want the relationship to continue, there must be commitment. Commitment is making a decision for something and following through with the steps in order to sustain and maintaining that something. So in the context of relationship, there must be a commitment that making a decision that this is the relationship that I want in my life, and following through with doing all the things necessary to protect and maintain that relationship. So commitment is a factor that goes into successful relationship so that you can stay loving in the relationship and be loved. And with commitment, you'll be able to overcome the obstacles. In any relationship, there will be obstacles, just as in life, there are so many obstacles. It requires commitment in order to get over them. Now, the third factor is trust. Trust is about confidence, is about assurance and dependence. Being able to depend on somebody makes you be able to trust that person. Trust is fundamental to life. If you cannot trust in anything, life becomes intolerable, a constant battle against paranoia and looming disaster. So in the context of relationship, you can't have a relationship without trust, let alone good relationship. Now, trust is so important that in the psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson, those of you who are familiar with the psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson, trust comes in at the first stage. When the child is from the stage of birth to about 1.5 years old, that is when the social value of trust is being developed. How? If the infant is being taken care of is being taken care by the primary caregiver, and there is stability and consistency, then there will be trust. So the infant is certain about the world, because once there is that consistency and stability of care, then the infant will be able to trust that the world is going to be manageable and that they will be able to live in this world. And from trust, it creates the social virtue of hope. And I hope that I would like you to make a mental note of this, because from trust, hope get created. Without trust, there will be no hope. So this is where I was just talking to my daughter. I think this morning I was talking to my daughter that I think it was more than 20 years ago that I went to Mumbai at one time, and my friend over there mentioned to me that when you go out, these children, they'll come to you, ask for money. Don't ever give any money, because if you give to one, the others will come and take whatever that they can from you. So I said, okay. It's just that even when I want to share with you this story, I can still go back there. As I was walking along the shore in Mumbai, a little girl, I think she must be not more than 12 years old, dressed in rags and carrying a baby. Maybe the baby is not even 2 years old yet, came to me, put her hand out, asking for money. What shocked me was I looked into her eyes at that time, and as our eyes locked, I was shocked, because it was the eyes of someone who has lost all hope of the future. And I would say I was shocked, not just shocked, I was traumatized, because when I came back to Malaysia for 2 weeks, I couldn't delete that image of those hopeless eyes. So trust is developed from the time of birth to about 1.5 to 2 years old, if the child is given continuous care and there is stability and consistency of care in the first 2 years of the child's life. So that will create the trust, and from trust, hope is created. So those are the three factors that contributes to a successful relationship. So I'm going to pause here to give you an opportunity to ask questions or comments. So go ahead. Anyone has got any comments?
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Marzuki.
Yes,
I have
Danny.
questions. In today's topic, relationship, does it apply to in the context of an organization?
Yes. So this is relationship in general. So I'm referring to in all relationships, these three factors are relevant, whether it is a personal relationship, a spousal relationship, a family relationship, business relationship, even inter-business relationship. Yeah, these factors are valid.
Okay. Can I ask my next question?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because when I look at the forms of love, I couldn't relate it. I tried to relate it to, the care for my team, but I couldn't relate it from the words that I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at that again. Where is it? There it is. We talk about forms of love. So let's take this in the context of professional relationship that you have with your team members. Yeah. So you need to rule out the second one. It's not romantic, it's romantic love. Affectionate love, you can rule that one out. Philosophy is something that you need for yourself. So one is, this one would be the one that will be relevant in the professional context. Familiar, that the connection that comes between professionals is that familiarity. Okay, so that's that connection, and between friends, especially ludus, playful love, would be relevant in that sense. And at the same time, what I am also bringing in this session is the first one, the unconditional love, the unconditional positive regard that you hold for every human being. So that's another element of love. So in the context of professional relationship, I see that the relevance would be unconditional, familiar, and also playful. You can have that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm clearer now.
Okay.
Thanks.
And good that you asked me this question, because in the relationships that you have with the people around you, it is not unidimensional. The love that you, the connection that you have, that love that you hold in your relationships may be multidimensional. So it is not just one. Okay. Right. Any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Marzuki?
Yeah.
So does it mean that individuals who have insecurity during their childhood or at the early age will impact their growth or during their adulthood?
Absolutely. So that is why when we go into the obstacles in a short while, then you'll be able to see why people are finding difficulty in holding onto relationships. So that's why the development of the psychosocial stage, the first one, is critical, in a child, because if that stage is not fully developed, it impacts the next stage and the next stage. And when the child grows to become an adult, the child will bring that lack of security in life in adult relationships. Yeah. So we'll be covering as well in the next point on the obstacles that people face with respect to relationship. Okay. So are you ready to go to the next point? We'll be discussing on the obstacles that people face in relationship. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So you've got that screen now. So these are the obstacles that people face in relationship. So let's take the first factor regarding love. So what are the obstacles to love? First is mismatched expectation. So let's say this is spousal relationship. In the context of spousal relationship, so the partners have a mismatched expectation. One partner is expecting romantic love, the other partner is expecting familiar love. And the expression of romantic love and familiar love are different. And because they are expressing the love in different ways, then they are in conflict in the way that they are experiencing the love in that particular relationship. So that's the first one, mismatched expectation. The second one is mismatched equivalence. You see, we equate behaviors with love. So that's why I can't remember the name of the author, Love Languages, the 5 love languages. He came up with seemingly five types of behaviors that are equated with love. So he talked about time, acts of service, time, act of service. I'm trying to remember them.
Gift, I think.
Gift.
Yes.
Gift. Oh
gosh.
Oh gosh. Okay, somebody help me. 2 more. Acts of service, quality time, gift.
Affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Yes, words of affirmation. The 5th one, never mind. It will come later. Now, mismatch equivalence is when one partner's equivalence of love is gift, another partner's equivalence of love is service. So one partner gives love through service, another partner gives love through gift, and the twain shall never meet. And because of that, they are mismatching in the way that they are giving and receiving love. And because of that, they are not feeling love in that relationship. So that's mismatched equivalence. Another one is either or thinking. Either or thinking in this context is rejecting a certain behavior not matching the expectation as love. For example, in the love language, if a partner's love language is gift and the other partner's love language is service, so the partner who has the love language has this either or thinking. Since you are not communicating to me through gift, therefore you don't love me. So having this concept, love is X. If it is not X, therefore it is not love. So just discounting everything else, looking for that item that they define as love. So this either or thinking is also a factor that prevents people from feeling love with one another. Yeah. Thank you, Cik Sakinah. And number 5, physical touch. I forgot. That's my love language. Okay. So those are the 5 love languages, and those are the ones that Colin Chapman came up with. However, human beings, they may have more than that. Those are the 5 common ones. So either or is, if my love language is physical touch, I only look for physical touch. If there is no physical touch, therefore I say there is no love. So this is the either or thinking, discounting everything else. So that's the another point, obstacle to love. And the next one is expecting reciprocity. Meaning to say, when I love you, I'm expecting that you reciprocate the way that I'm loving you. Reciprocate in what way? In terms of behavior. If I give you gifts, then I expect that you give me gifts. If I give you time, then I expect you to give me time. Reciprocate in terms of the degree, in terms of the intensity. So if my way of loving is a really intense romantic love, and I expect that you reciprocate in that way. If you don't, then you don't love me. So this can be another obstacle to the players from feeling love with one another. So expecting reciprocity is what we consider as conditional love. I love you if you were to love me back. I don't love you if you don't love me. So that is reciprocity. Okay. And the 5th one that I can come up with for you this evening is overlooking the doing for the feel. What I'm referring to is love. Love is both a verb and a noun. So love is the feel of love and also the doing. So you do things. For example, acts of service is a doingness of love. Giving gift is a doingness of love. Many people, they just define love with the feel in the body. The feel is the result of the doing. So when you overlook the doing, since I don't feel that I love you anymore, therefore there is no more point for this relationship. They overlook the fact that they need to be doing things in order to feel that love. So this is the obstacle that people face when it comes to the first factor for relationship, that is love. The obstacle to commitment is that we need to realize that commitment is closely linked with trust. So commitment comes almost hand in glove with trust because they tend to surface together. Yeah. Now, when we talk about commitment, you commit to something when there is hope for improvement, development, or progress. For example, you commit to your business because there is hope that this business is going to thrive, is going to grow. If there is no hope, then you let go of any more commitment. So commitment is very tightly very tightly bound to hope. Okay, so you commit to something when there is hope that things will improve, that things will develop, that things will progress. Now, what we need to realize is that hope is a child of trust. So this is why I say that there is a very tight bound between commitment and trust. But this is where we need to look into trust in order to understand the factors in play. So what are the obstacles related to trust? Now, as what we discussed earlier, that Cik Sakinah asked earlier, the first thing about trust, an obstacle to trust, is that if the person at the first psychosocial stage, that development of trust is not fully developed, is not fully, did not bloom fully, then the person grows into adult life lacking in trust, because trust has not been well developed in his or her life. So what happens is that because there is lack of trust, then there will be lack of hope, and because of that, it affects the commitment as well. Now, another thing about the obstacle to trust is that trust is lost when it is broken. I'm sure you are familiar with the scenario that in order to build trust, you need to demonstrate your competency, capability, being able that people can depend and rely on you over and over and over again. However, the moment you break it, then it is lost. It doesn't come that easily. Trust is lost when it is broken. Lying breaks trust. So in the world that people live, whenever they feel that they are lied to, it breaks the trust fully and completely. And just this afternoon, I was reading an article written about one person who was, at that time, he had a startup, and that startup has a lot of potential. And then he was making a presentation to Steve Jobs at that time. And Jobs was really interested in the product that he was presenting to him. It's just that he did not convey it to the fullest extent, not being fully honest to Jobs. And when Jobs discovered it, immediately he said, "No, I'm not going to take it." Yeah, because to Jobs at that time, it is as if this guy is lying about the potential of the company that he wants Apple to buy, and therefore he will not do any business with that person. And this person said in the article, said that was the best learning that he got in his life from Steve Jobs. Okay, lying breaks trust. And when we talk about lying, my question to you is, how much have you been lied to? Because if in our life we have been lied to, it will chip away at the trust that we have, not only in others and in the systems around that, it can also chip away in the trust that we have in ourselves. This is already October, November, December, there will be Christmas. And I came across this video by this gentleman by the name of Yusuf Estes, and he was talking to a crowd, and he mentioned to the crowd that you have been lied to. Your parents lied to you. And the crowd was so angry at him for saying that. And then he asked this question: how old were you when you discovered that Santa Claus doesn't exist? And the whole room went silent. Methodic lying destroys trust. So that's what happened with people, little children from young, being fed a lie by the parents. And it is not just by the parents in the context of Santa Claus, not just the parents, the community around them, the businesses around them were feeding this lie about Santa Claus. And the time that Yusuf Estes mentioned that when he discovered that it was a lie, he was traumatized by it. Because when that happens, that trust just diminishes, it just goes away. Trust in self, trust in others, trust in the whole world. And when I heard the story that Yusuf Estes talked about, it got me thinking. And it appears to be a coincidence. However, I feel that it is more than coincidence. That when we talk about trust that children lost, especially in the context of methodic lying in society, that children lose that trust. Notice that a lot of the countries where this tradition of methodic lying occurring, like Santa Claus, the what I call Easter Bunny, and all this, you notice that a lot of the people there are also disbelievers. They find disbelievers in the sense that they find it hard to believe other people because they have lost that trust. So that is why in the context of COVID-19, there is a lot of anti-vaxxer groups around because they cannot trust the news that comes to them. So they look for the smaller channels to tell about hydrochloroquine, to tell about ivermectin, because they cannot trust the scientific or medical channel. So they are doubting vaccine, they are doubting health protocols to the extent that some of these people are on the deathbed due to COVID, still saying that they do not believe COVID-19 because that trust was destroyed when they are young and they find that they cannot trust the world. They can only rely on themselves. At the same time, self-trust is also affected. So in this context, I remember when my little grasshopper was about 6 years old, she was listening people talking, and then she went up to her mama, and said, "Mama, is it true that some parents lie to their children?" And then my daughter looked at her daughter and said, "Yes, some parents do that." And she got off her chair, and grasshopper went up to her mama, hugged her mama tightly, and said, "Mama, thank you for not lying to me." Human beings need that need to be able to have something that they depend on. And when that something that they depend on is based on a lie, that's when the trust just goes away. Okay, so just wrapping up this particular section on obstacles to relationship is that when trust goes down, commitment goes down, love is impacted. And when love is impacted, that will hurt that relationship. Okay, so those are some of the obstacles with respect to a successful relationship. So, questions and comments.
Hi, Coach.
Yes, Rina.
Hi. Okay, I've got two questions. One is actually regarding the earlier topic about familiar love. If you can explain more on what is actually familiar love. And number two, the methodic lying, does it apply only to children, or can it be also applicable to adults and so on? Thanks.
Right. Thank you. So I'll take the first one regarding familiar love. Familiar love is, I would consider to be one of the most common ones abound, because, for example, when people, married couples, when they first get married, so there is that eros, there is that romantic love coming in. So that's that passion being there. And after some time, you see, people change over time. And after some time, that passion goes away. So what comes is that familiarity. So you are my partner, I'm your partner, we are living together. And then in terms of intensity, probably it started off as very high, then probably the intensity just goes down. And then there is that plateau. Yeah. And that plateau is what we consider as familiar love. You are loving one another that comes out of familiarity. Yes, there might be some romantic love still available there. However, now it is being driven by that consistent hum, if I were to use that word. That is what holding that relationship for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So that is familiar love. And you see this in, I'm laughing here. I'm about to say, you see this in couples who've been married for a long time, and I realize that I'm one of them. In people who have been married for a long time, they fall into a certain routine that they are just going on with that routine, and there is nothing wrong with it. It is a form of love that holds the relationship together. Yeah. Another example of familiar love is if you have heard of arranged marriages. So the couples never had that spike of passionate love in the first place because it's been arranged. So they got to know one another and they hold on to each other for the rest of their life. So that is also an example of familiar love.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's clearer now.
The second question was regarding?
Methodic lying, whether it's only applicable to children.
No, it is not just applicable to children. It is more damaging when it happens as a child.
I see.
Yeah, methodic lying, it is applicable to adults as well. For example, in a couple relationship, you have methodic lying happening between the couple, and when the one being lied to realize that, oh, they've been lied to, then everything just falls apart. Methodic lying can also happen in organizations. So thank you, Daniel, for asking the question earlier relating to love in an organization. Organizations coming in nowadays, organizations want to show to their staff, to their customers that they are caring organizations. They care for the ecology, and they are an equal opportunity employer. They are not racist. So they show this. They give evidences to show this. And yet, when it surfaced, it comes to the fore that the company is doing something totally opposite. That's when the customers lose that trust and they will leave in droves. And that is what's happening with Facebook right now, because they show that they are a caring platform, and yet with this, I can't remember her name, the latest revelation showing that Facebook knows that the algorithms are bringing up hate, racial injustice, and they know for specific that Instagram is creating a lot of mental and emotional stress in teenage girls. They know all of those. However, they just sweep it under the carpet, and yet publicly they are saying that they are caring, giving value to society. So when this comes out, that methodic lie is creating a lot of distrust in Facebook now. After Cambridge Analytica and now this one coming up, then the lie that they've been keeping all this while, this is what we call the methodic lie, can have a very severe impact on the people who care about not being lied to. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. So, any more questions or comments? No? Yeah. So, yeah.
Sir, Mr. Masuki,
Yes, Louise.
just thinking out loud. I think just now, the question is on the familiar love.
Mhm.
So you did mention that for the couples that have been married for 20 over years, 30 over years, their so-called romantic love is already changed to familiar love.
Mm.
And I came across with some of the couples after their marriage of 20 years, even though 30 years, and their kids is already getting married, and they have affairs. So is it means that that particular couples, or I can say the particular individuals, have changed the familiar love? Maybe it's already like boring, and they try to seek for romantic love outside.
Yeah.
That's why they have the affairs at after 20 or 30 years of the marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. So notice the first point that I mentioned about the problem with love, mismatched expectation. So people don't take into account that people change over time. So when they first go into the spousal relationship, there is that romantic love, and they don't take into account that after some time, that romantic love may not be there anymore, and they discount the familiar love, and because of that, they go looking for romantic love somewhere else, thinking that they are not in love anymore. So there is also one of the obstacles that people face, to be able to notice that, oh yes, it has changed. It has changed. And I mentioned to you about my grandchildren. I'm noticing the way that I am interacting with my grandchildren is changing. When they were 3 to they are 6, and now Grasshopper is already 13, that relationship is already changing. The way that I feel about her has also changed, because she's not a baby anymore. She's not a child anymore. She's a twin now. So allowing that change to come into your life, to appreciate and accept that this is now the new quality of love and relationship that I have with this person. So that's why when people do not recognize the different dimensions of love, they are only focusing on one dimension of love. And because they are not experiencing that one dimension of love, then they discount the whole thing. No, we don't have love anymore in our relationship.
Assalamualaikum, Coach.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes.
Boleh saya bahasa Melayu je?
Ya, ya, sila.
And boleh saya share saya punya pengalaman lah?
Ya.
Okay, I'm single mother actually. Saya berkahwin dengan ex-husband. Masa tu saya degree, and dia somebody, tapi dia belajar SPM sajalah. So saya terimalah dia, walaupun memang family tanya juga kenapa you pilih dia kan, decide untuk pilih dia. Masa tu saya pun tak tahulah macam mana mak saya boleh pilih dia. Saya pun dah jodoh lah, so selama 17 tahun lah. Cuma masa tu saya tak tahu yang family dia berkahwin 2, bapa dia berkahwin 2. And then adik-adik ramai, tapi tak ada seorang pun yang memberitahu perkara tersebut. So saya bukannya duduk pun bukan tak pernah jumpa lah sebelum ni, tak kenal lah sebelum ni. So duduk daerah yang tak sama. So lepas berkahwin baru tahu. Sebab pernah jumpa family dia, pernah jumpa bapa dia. Masa tu bapa dia kata kerja kat sini. So bapak dia adik di sini sebab kerja sini tak tahulah tu rupanya dia ada 2. Ni dia tak cerita. So lepas berkahwin tu okey, saya punya pula keadaan saya ialah family background saya pula mak bapak bercerai. So kecil lah, saya kecil bercerai dan dia kecil mak bapak bermadu lah. Cuma bapak dia lebih pada yang kedua lah. Jadi mak dia tu banyak cerita pada saya. Situasi yang dia alami banyak cerita daripada saya. So bila berkahwin, walaupun dia ada kakak ada abang, mak dia cerita pada saya mungkin rapat lah. Sebab yang lain tu lelaki kan, yang atas lelaki, kakak-kakak lelaki lah menantu. Jadi saya menantu perempuan pertama lah. Banyak cerita pada saya. So sepanjang perkahwinan tu menjalani macam biasa, tapi memang ada banyak keadaan yang ex-husband akan seolah macam akan ada, orang kata ada somebody lah. Tapi kebanyakannya saya macam memaafkan je lah. So sampai ke satu tahap tu saya macam dah banyak kali saya dah macam dah give up lah, sebab benda tu berlaku banyak kali. And then yang terakhir tu dia memang rupanya memang dia nak kahwin 2 lah. Even baru lepas bersalin dan dia memang kita tahu dia punya kemampuan tak ada lah. Cumanya mungkin sebab bisnes berniaga kan. Berniaga nampak dia boleh buat on paper lah. Kalau masuk duit tu banyak. So pejabat agama tu kira macam setujulah. Macam beri kebenaran lah kalau nak ni, sebab kalau masuk duit memang banyak tapi sebenarnya kosong. Dia macam on paper kan. Sebabnya bila saya pula belah family saya decide tak payah. Dah banyak kali beri peluang, tak payah. Saya memang masa tu baru lepas melahirkan anak. Jadi macam ada banyak lah dalam otak tu, banyak-banyak pemikiran. Dalam saya kata pergi pejabat agama check dulu. So pergi pejabat agama check. Di akhir sekali tu memang kalau ikutkan tak layak. So dia kata okay, dia sayang saya. Dia tak jadi cerai kali pertama. Tapi dalam beberapa bulan selepas tu dia ubah statement nak kahwin 2. Tapi tak sampai berapa minggu tu lantas bercerai dah juga. Dia bercerai juga. So adakah macam mana kalau keadaan macam itu, adakah situasi dia dengan family dia masa kecil dan saya dengan family saya masa kecil akan mempengaruhi kami, dan bagaimanakah saya nak mengatasi untuk anak-anak? Maksudnya saya tak menengok pada saya, itu dah berlalu, tak masalah. So untuk anak-anak tu, macam mana saya nak menjadikan yang maksudnya untuk anak-anak saya dia tak akan mempengaruhi lah. Itu saja.
Terima kasih. So this is kita mana kalau dalam sistem yang kita bercakap ni, in the context of NLP we call that imprinting. Imprinting because he's been exposed keluarga yang kahwin 2, you are exposed to keluarga yang bercerai, yeah, and because of that the level of trust and commitment tu are affected. So notice that it is also coming into play into you punya marriage dengan dia. It comes into play over that. So I do not want to comment in specific detail, just to notice that in your relationship dengan dia tu, there is the issue of trust not full, and then issue of commitment tu pun tak penuh. And because of that dia melibatkan perasaan kasih sayang, and that is why dia it affects the relationship sampai tahap penceraian. Of course it is more complicated than that, but all of those factors are affected yang menyebabkan the relationship is not able to be sustained. So soalan yang ditanya tu macam mana nak overcome tu. So this is where I hope that this next session, because my focus for this evening bukan nak cakap pasal problem tu. My focus is going into the solution. Because apa yang kita lakukan, no matter whatever the past has come in our life, we can work about it. Kalau kita ada issue regarding mana-mana elemen tu, we can do something about it. So I hope that you'll be patient enough to go through this next session where we'll be discussing on the solution. Boleh ya, Zarina? We'll look into that.
InsyaAllah, insyaAllah.
Okay, good. So let's all move. I would like to first thank Nozarina for her willingness to share with her about her situation. At the same time, let us move into the solutions, because with whatever that I know about what she shared just now, I cannot give an informed advice regarding it, because I know that the information that I have is not complete. So that requires me to speak individually dengan Nozarina to fully understand that. However, in the context of what we have discussed today, notice that all the three elements were impacted in the scenario that Nozarina has mentioned that. So let's move into the solutions. What can you do about it? Yeah. So when we look at the solutions, then we need to start off with the trust, because that's the way that it is run. We need to start off with the trust to redevelop that trust. Okay, and then to be able to increase that commitment and to be able to increase that love in order to strengthen that relationship. So just going back to that trust, what do we need to do? And this is also relevant to the question that Nozarina mentioned just now, especially in the children, because now they have observed the separation. So part of the trust that they have has been what's the word? Has been affected in that sense, has been eroded. Part of the trust has been eroded because they grow up trusting the mother, trusting the father. Little children in a family where there is separation, they trust the father, they trust the mother, and when there is separation, then they begin to lose that trust. Worse is that little children, they tend to take it personally. So when they felt that loss of trust, they lose trust in themselves and they lose hope for the future. That is also part of what is happening. So the first stage for that is to rebuild that trust. To rebuild that trust. It's just that we are so grateful that with the intervention of NLP and neurosemantics, whatever lack of development in the psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson, that there is a pattern that we can run in order to redevelop that, recapitulate that lack of development. We call it finishing unfinished business, so that the body knows how to detect what it is. How does it feel to trust fully and completely? So to train, to condition the body to experience that. So this is what we call finishing unfinished business, one of the patterns that we have in NLP. And in the context of the example that Zarina mentioned just now, so if you are a single parent and you want your child to grow up healthy in the context of trust and will, so that's hope and will, so to be able to provide that consistent, continuous support for them, let them feel that they have full support from you, and not just from you, because when people grow up, they need to feel that they can trust in themselves. They need to trust in society. So trust in self, trust in others, and trust in the society at large. So that is the part that you can help to build that trust. Okay. Then moving on to the next one, that is the commitment. Commitment starts off with the decision and taking action in order to apply the decision in your life. Yeah. So in the context of relationship, making the commitment to the relationship, that you are in this relationship and then you want to sustain this relationship. What are the things that I need to do? What are the things that I need to change within myself? Remember, because you can't change others, you can only change yourself. What do I need to do in order to change myself, in order to keep this relationship? Making that as a commitment. And that commitment needs to be built on trust. So it needs to be, you need to work on this together. Yeah, building that trust in self, and especially in a relationship where a lot of things has been broken. The first thing is for you to learn to trust yourself. Trust yourself means that you need to take back your power. So in neurosemantics, that's why we keep on saying about the power, the four central powers: the power of thinking, the power of feeling, the power of saying, and the power of doing. Take ownership of your powers. And from taking ownership of your powers, to reinstall your esteem fully and completely. And part of installing self-esteem is to be able to separate person from behavior. The reason why in a relationship that is not in good state, you need to have that full separation between person and behavior, is that when you are in a relationship and the relationship is not doing well, then there is that danger of you labeling yourself as a failure. Now you are diminishing your sense of self. So it's very important to separate person from behavior. Okay, the poor quality of relationship that I have is not because I am a bad person, but because I don't have competency. When I have the right competency, I can rebuild this relationship. So that separation of person and behavior is critical. So that is also part of building that trust, to have full esteem, to esteem yourself fully and completely, and to begin to develop confidence in the skills that you have. Confidence in your ability to communicate with your partner in order to have loving relationships. So that requires skills in those areas. The confidence in your skills to be able to raise your children in the right way so that they are healthy mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So to have confidence in those skills, and at the same time to be able to maintain that self-esteem. So this is part of building a strong core. Once you have that strong core, then you can regain your trust, and then you can pursue the commitment that you are going to be able to pursue. Then from there, you'll be able to build love, and we are going to go into the neurosemantics of love in a short while. And in that way, you'll be able to bring up the relationship in your life. Okay, so let's take a look in the neurosemantics of love, because this is how you are going to be more stable with yourself, and because of that, you are going to create a stable relationship in your life. Now, there is that inner game of thinking, feeling. This is at the meta level. Once you take full ownership of your power of thinking and feeling, you know that you are in full control of your power, and your power and your facility of thinking and feeling here is what creates your state. That is how you feel. So the state of love, feeling loved, being loved, comes from your thinking, feeling. So this is very important for you to get a handle on. Your feel of love and your feel of being loved has nothing to do with your partner. Your feel of love and your feel of being loved is your responsibility, because the state, the feel of love and being loved is a result of your thinking, feeling. And your thinking, feeling is your personal power. To be able to fully understand that, it is not your partner makes you feel love. Is your thinking about what your partner did is what made you feel loved. So that's how you gain that control for yourself. And from your thinking, feeling, going into your state, then your external power of performance, of expression, your external power of saying and doing. So knowing that I want my partner to feel comfortable with this relationship, what can I say and do in order to create this comfort within this relationship? And that is within your power. Understanding the love languages. What are the love language and what's the love language of your partner? To say and do in accordance to the love language. However, know that your responsibility only lies up till there. How your partner feels, that's his or her business, not your business. So similarly, in a professional environment, as the boss in the boss in the company, your responsibility is to say and do things that are congruent with the values that you have. Whether the staff takes that positively or negatively, that's none of your business. So focus on managing how you think, feel, because that affects your state and that affects your saying and doing. So from there, you begin to build your own power matrix about love. And if I may suggest some of the ways of thinking that can fit into this power matrix of love, that can give you that sense of love that is stable for yourself and therefore bringing that stability into others, is this: I am responsible for how I feel love. That's my responsibility. The feeling of love is my responsibility, not my partner's responsibility. I am responsible for how I feel about being loved. So what do I do in order to feel that I am being loved? And to be able to say that you, my partner, and this could be a spousal relationship, or it could be a employer-employee relationship, that you have no power about how I feel. I am the one who's holding the power about how I feel. Another frame that we can bring into the power matrix is I trust in my powers to feel love and feel loved. Another frame that you can bring into your power matrix of love is I commit to love, or I am committed to love, and I am committed to this relationship. So from this power matrix of love, creating the matrix so that you are fully responsible. Just working within your power zone. The rest is outside of your power zone. And this will lead you to that agape, unconditional love. That now The love that you feel for yourself and for your partner is unconditional to your partner's responses. And especially when you are with partners who are not appreciative of you, you can still love them. So this is the, I would say, the solution for loving the unlovely, because human beings who are not mature enough in their skills and behaviors may behave in ways that will make you feel it difficult to love them if you love people based on using their behaviors as conditional. Now, when you are in full control of your powers, the powers of maintaining your state of feeling love and feeling of being loved, you don't need other people's performances in order to feel that. So that will give you the ability to love every human being unconditionally, even those who behave in ways that are that may be hurtful to you. You can continue to love them. So from the neurosemantics of love, to go back into your power resource, to hold it there. Because once you are in your operating from your powers, from your 4 fundamental powers, that's when you will strengthen that commitment. You will strengthen that trust, to rebuild that trust. Now you are not impacted or affected by what's outside of you. So you are creating the environment that will help you to strengthen and sustain whatever relationship that you have in your life. Okay, so that's a very quick explanation of the solution. So, questions and comments?
Hi, Coach. I've got a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Have you ever met anybody who says that they are cold, unfeeling, they don't feel love, and they don't know the definition of love? So, you know, it's like, what is love actually in the first place? How do you define it for you to be able to know that you are feeling love? Okay, too deep, is it?
Not too deep.
Okay.
We need to have the conversation with that person, because has that person not really felt love, or that person has been discounting the love that they may have felt. It's just that love is different. For some, it is a calm sea. For some, it is as a waterfall. For some, it is sunrise. For some, it is sunset. So different people experience love in different ways. Now, if a person grows up experiencing that love and being invalidated, Allah, you are still small, you don't know what it is, then that person begins to second guess whether they feel love or not. Is this love? Now, a child experiences that. Just last weekend, my grandchildren, they visited us, and I took them around. So the youngest one, Siesha, she's 2. She's 2. And when we walked around, when she saw a cat, she'll just go, cat, and start to stroke the cat. That is love. So to be able to accept, that is a form of love. It went to the point whereby she was stroking the cat for so long, and we had to get away. She burst into tears because she had to leave that cat. So when a person grows up experiencing that love, and the adult, the primary caregiver, affirms, okay, you've experienced love there. Then that person begin to record in their body, okay, this is how I feel about love to a cat. This is how I feel about love to a tortoise. This is how I feel love about towards my father. Now that person has got many different reference points in the body of how it feels to be loved, and that person is love literate. Now, another person who goes through life as a child, being invalidated, no, that is not love. No, that is. So that person second guesses. They may feel a certain feeling that love, what we call as loving feeling, but because they invalidate it and they say that, oh, I don't feel anything. And that could happen with another, with that person. So from coaching perspective, to be able to acknowledge that, okay, so you say that you don't feel love, and that's how you have been operating. And how is it that you are connecting with the people around you? So let's say I just read an article, a wonderful article, really strange, about two guys. They are in the 70s right now. Best of friends since they were in sixth grade. They were best of friends since they were in sixth grade. After 60 years, only then they realized that they are blood brothers from the same mother. So they will have been best of friends for 60 years. So that connection that they felt, that is love. Even though they are blood brothers, they experience it differently. So to be able to speak to that person, if the person comes to you and say, I've never felt love in my life. So to be asked, so what is love to you? To let that person explore that. For example, that person is in relationship with colleagues. So when you think about your colleague at work, so you have been working with that colleague for 5 years or so, and you speak with this colleague in this particular way. So how do you feel when you are doing that? So to be able to present it to that person, so that is what love is to you, because that is what holding you together in that relationship. So everyone's experience of love in the body is different. So that is why it is not just about the different dimensions of love. We talked earlier about the 8 different dimensions of love. It is about the felt in the body, how you feel it in the body is different. For some people, love, they feel lightheaded. Some people feel a warmth in the chest. Some people, they feel the coolness in the shoulders. Those are all ways, different ways of experiencing love.
Thanks, Coach. That's very enlightening, actually, because, I think we've all been given, if we see love stories, love movies, they show us a certain kind of love. So because of that, we tend to interpret love like that. So thank you. That's very, very, thank you.
And Rina, what I appreciate about that last word that you say is that we tend to interpret that's how love
should be.
And then the next step is, so if I don't experience that, therefore I don't love. That's the tragedy.
Yes. Yes, that's right. So because of that, you feel that you lack and you are inferior in a sense, Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that point. So just because you experience love in a different way doesn't mean that you are inferior to others. Different people experience it in different way, and to be accepting. That's how we experience.
Thank you, Coach. It's a very good talk today.
Thank you. Yeah. So, any more questions or comments?
Azuki, I got a question.
Yes, watching.
Okay, for a conditioned love, for
Mhm.
example, just a random example. I love someone, but someone doesn't love me. So how do I find a balance in between?
Yeah. So this is where, so if you love someone and that person doesn't love you, then the first thing that you need to know is that you cannot get into the relationship that you expect with that person, because the expressions will be different. Yeah? So then you need to be thinking about a different kind of relationship. So it doesn't mean that that person is no use in your life. So this is where the unconditional love comes in. To be able to bring yourself to the level, okay, this person doesn't love me and that's okay. However, this person is human being. I will love this person as a human being. That's all. If this person is a bear, I will love this person as a bear. That's all. I'm not expecting any reciprocity in return. Does that make sense? Watching?
Yes, does not expecting reciprocal blah, 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 from
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You got any other questions?
So, just a comment, Mr. Mazuki, it's not a comment, it's just like a conclusion in comments in the same way, anyway.
Go ahead.
So it's like, if you talk about love is like, of course, we feel happiness, comfort, and then and it depends on people, you know, depends on people, people context, define the love itself, right? So, but people normally, like, what I observe, most of us like always focus so much on the obstacles. Okay, for example, the reciprocal, or how to pronounce it?
Reciprocal.
Reciprocity.
Okay.
Okay, something like that, where you love and you want to be loved back, right? So the reason why I think that that happened is because we think that when we're involved in relationship, especially, it's because we are making so much effort to be in that love and relationship with other people. So sometimes we become so greedy that we want that person to love us back as much as we love them. So yeah, for of course, like we always say, like, how much you love me. So like to the moon and back, or something like that, you know, thing like that. So we always wanted to have to listen that people have to love us back because of the effort that we have poured into that relationship. So I think that's why we always lost in the managing our thinking and also our feelings, because of the effort that we have poured in. We think that we cannot achieve that unconditional love because of that. But there is the point where we have to conquer ourselves back and recalculate again about this thinking and feelings. So to achieve that, what you call it, unconditional love, like love without feeling injustice to other people. Some sort, yeah. That is what I get it from these conclusions and also comments. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a wonderful conclusion that you have made for your learning this evening. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Wow. Alhamdulillah. So what I'll do is I'll just go around to each and every one of you. What are your thoughts about this evening session? Your comments. So I'll start down with the bottom of my screen. Since I look at Izani's face smiling at me. Izani, is there anything that you would like to say as we conclude this evening?
I read one book which is they measure the power of love, which is 700 hertz. How do they measure that? Which is one of the table, the highest power, which is can heal you. Okay? So I'm not sure how they measure it. So that's just simply bluntly asking you. That's all. That's all.
I cannot comment because I don't know that. Because in order for them to measure something, there must be an external behavior that they equate with love, or they may have been measuring some part of the brain activity that is equated by to them. So that is an equivalence. Yeah. So one of the cognitive distortions that we human beings have is what we call complex equivalence. So the question that I need to ask, is there a complex equivalence or even simplex equivalence being carried out? So how true is that equivalence? So that's why I cannot comment that. However, when it comes to human behavior, you notice that human behaviors are so different. You notice how, let's say, Italians, when they meet one another, even if they've just met 5 minutes ago, when they meet one another, they just hug and kiss and all that. So that's an external expression of love. And yet you see like Japanese, even though they've not met for 40 years, when they meet each other, they just politely bow. Does that mean that their intensity of love is less, the feel, just because the external behavior is controlled? Does it mean that their experience of love in the body is less? I personally don't think so, because when we look at different cultures, they have different ways of externally experiencing love. And yet, when it comes to passion for doing things, everyone is equally passionate to do things. So that's interesting that you mentioned about that. So I will not comment where the 700 buku apa tu ni?
By Hopkins or what? The tables that the highest table is love. The power. I forgot about the book, but the author is very famous author. Measuring all these, all the power, the enlightenment, so many things they measure, the anger, the fear, everything. He put the measurement when you are under fear or anger, it goes down to 20, like 20, 30. They put the unit like hertz, the same like frequency as well. So that's why I'm just wondering. They have got the table for that, I guess.
So Ning, I need to plead ignorance on that. So that's why I cannot comment.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So moving next, Susanna, any comments from you before we end?
Thank you, Mr. Marzuki. I'm just a listener today because I'm in any commitment, but I listen to the topics and it's very interesting. There's some of the like sharing. Sakina was talking about the expectation of love, reciprocal, and I have nothing to comment. I appreciate the session. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. And Nur Zarina, ada komen apa-apa?
Alhamdulillah, sangat full of knowledge lah untuk saya. Maybe I can reboot my thinking, so I can get unconditional love to ex-husband.
Hmm.
Even actually dia ada lagi lah macam perasaan sedih, kecewa macam tu. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. Moving on to Luis.
Okay, hi, Mr. Mazuki.
Hi.
So for me tonight, the topic is very interesting and definitely is like deepen my knowledge to like another level to understand what is the love and also in the relationship. And mostly, I really highly appreciate those questions from the fellow friends here. And from the questions, I really learned a lot, especially like it recall my memories and those cases that where I have been dealing with my past students.
Mhm.
And also right now is like give me an it also like how to say that it also prepared me for the future if I going to have a similar case with my students, and I will know how to handle it and in a very in a matured way. And it also I believe that I can handle it better than previous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next, Guaching.
Thank you, Mazuki. We love you, Mazuki.
Thank you. I love you, Guaching. And next, Rina.
Hi, Coach. Hi. Haven't joined your session for quite some time. Basically, when I joined tonight, I didn't really know what it was going to be, but I think you know how they say that sometimes things happen for a reason, and because I'm actually at this particular point in my life where this is actually extremely important to me, things have happened whereby it has created a sense of I've questioned myself, whereby I've lost my self-esteem, and how should I say? So basically, when you explained about the definition of love and how it is different from for everybody, and somehow that has reassured me to actually make me feel and think that I'm not weird, you know. And I'm really grateful for the session tonight. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much, Rina. Thank you for joining us this evening. And moving over to you, Cik Sakina, you have anything else to add?
I think I said enough, and I'm also very grateful that I attend today's sessions. I learned from Mr. Mazuki and also the members here. So I'm very grateful. And then just remember this, like, you know, first thing about love and relationships and everything, it's require efforts, and you know, you have to pray a lot about it, because you know it shows who you are. Like, you know, you express that love. It's not the other person, you know. It's always like that. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Mazuki. I appreciate it. It's I hope everyone in the good relationship in the future, in their self, in their partners and families. Okay.
Amin. Thank you. And last but not least, Danielle, go ahead.
Yep. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you, Mr. Mazuki, for tonight's sessions. It's a very interesting topic and have learned a lot. Particularly, it is very new to me when you show us the forms of love. So I think I never thought of that. So it's very new to me, and I think I can relate better now, better at my workplace with my team, or whether with my my family member. And the other thing that struck me is how you use the neurosemantic perspective, the neurosemantic of love, to show that how we actually able to manage ourselves and still have, you know, have a very healthy self-esteem in any relationship that we have. Yeah, because personally I suffered that a lot, because for me my problem is conditional love. I built love conditionally. I feel love conditionally as well. And lastly, I would like to thank those who shared your story tonight. It has been very inspiring, and I also learned a lot from your story and also questions. So I appreciate everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So Alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful that we are able to meet this evening. And probably some final words before we end to summarize our session. That one is that a relationship is built on love, commitment, and trust. And when we have issues with trust, commitment, and love, this can diminish a relationship. When you take control of your 4 personal powers to develop unconditional love in your relationship, that's when you'll be able to bring that relationship to another level. It's just as a caveat, is that you need to, in any relationship, you need to beware of people who are immature and undeveloped, because when they are immature, and immature here has nothing to do with age, it has everything to do with their cognitive development and psychosocial development. So if people who are immature and undeveloped, their behaviors may hurt or harm you. So the first thing that you need to do is to do something that will prevent that hurt or harm coming to you. So that is that defensive part that you need to do. So if you are in those kind of relationship, you need to first take care of yourself. Yeah. So even though you have commitment to a relationship, that part of that commitment to a relationship is to commit to keep yourself safe, mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. Okay. So with that said, I really appreciate all of you being here this evening. Daniel, Cik Sakina, Louis, Kuat Cheng, Rina, Nozarina, Izaning, and Susanna. I really appreciate you being here this evening, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session. With that, good night, everyone, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.